I'm Cheyenne, the Executive Director of the South Enotah Child Advocacy Center, and today for our Talk About It Tuesday, we have with us Assistant District Attorney Blair Mahaffey. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
A little bit about Blair's history is that he began his career as a staff assistant to United States Congressman Roy Rowland in 1989, and after his time there, he went to Henry County where he prosecuted cases for 20 years, where he recently came to Lumpkin County, and he's been here since January 2017, and he's prosecuted all types of cases, everything from child molestation cases to death penalty cases, from speeding cases, everything. And so he brings a wealth of knowledge to us, and we're really thankful to have him with us. And so we have a few questions that we're going to go over so that you guys can better understand what it's like to prosecute cases in Lumpkin and White County where he works. And so our first question for Blair is, what is it like to prosecute these types of cases? Are they different from other types of cases, and if so, how?
They are different. The best way to describe it is prosecuting a child molestation case is just like prosecuting a murder case, because it's such an intimate and personal crime. The child is a victim who has no ability to protect themselves, really, because most of the time, of course, a child molestation involves an adult who is victimizing this child in a sexual way, and you want to do everything you can for that child, knowing that no matter what you do, that child's never going to get past being molested by an adult that most of the time they have trusted and put their confidence in, and that adult's broken that confidence, and there's a lot that goes on as far as inside that child that takes time and counseling and love and support, and that is detrimental to that child for years to come. But you want to make sure that you do everything you possibly can to prosecute that offender, not only for the rest of the public to make sure that that person doesn't have access to children in the future, but to let that child know that we believe you, we love you, we care about you, and we want to try to make sure that you're safe and that you have the rest of your life you feel safe and you can have some type of life and not feel those effects for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that it takes sometimes quite a while for a case to go to trial.
Yes.
Can you give us like an average amount of time and maybe how that affects the child that it takes so long?
Usually a child molestation can take between 1 to 2 years. It just depends on the amount of evidence that's involved. Of course, forensic interviews, things of that nature. You have to have, there's all kinds of motions that the defense attorney, most defense attorneys will file. You go through the motions process, and then you have to make sure you have everything coordinated. A lot of times nowadays, which we didn't have when I started out, was you have a lot of DNA evidence, and the GBI crime lab, as they process that evidence, DNA takes a very long time to get processed at the crime lab, and so that can lengthen that bit of time. But in general, it takes between 1 to 2 years to get a child molestation case to trial.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us, because that's a question that we get a lot. A lot of times we have children and they come in and they begin counseling, and then within a month they're kind of wondering what's going on with the trial, and we have to explain to them, no, it's going to be like a year or two until then.
Yeah, and
if it does.
Right, if it goes within that time. Generally it should, but there's all kinds of circumstances, and you can't pinpoint any kind of time frame.
Yeah. And then once it gets to trial, they're going to come before a jury who doesn't always know a lot about child sexual abuse, and so they're wanting a lot of DNA evidence or a lot of physical evidence, and those aren't always in these types of cases.
Right.
And so we wanted to give you the opportunity, if you have anything that you want to say to a potential jury, if they're going to sit on one of these types of cases, what would you say to them?
The thing that I would say to anybody who is involved in a child molestation case, particularly with young children, is, and I learned this a long time ago in probably one of the first 3 or 4 years of my career. I had a case, and I went and sat down with a child counselor because I was looking for an expert witness, and she explained to me how children and she used the term mark time. Children mark time not like adults. It happened on a Friday in April, in 2018. Children only mark time generally by seasons and what's going on in their lives at the time. Are you in school? Are they not in school? Was it Christmas time? Things of that nature. And adults don't generally understand that. And it's important for a juror, and I try to make sure I do this when I'm talking to a jury, to make sure they understand that, because that child can't tell you that he molested me or she molested me on a Saturday, in June. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. That the best they can do is, well, were you in school? No, I wasn't in school. I was wearing short pants and we would go to the pool sometimes. Things of that nature. That's how children mark time, and it's important for a juror to understand that. So many times in a child molestation case, adults want specifics, but when a child's young, they don't have the ability mentally to give those specifics. So that's what I would say to a juror.
Yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate you saying that. And that's why when we talk to these types of kids, we normally say to them, tell me what was going on in your life at that time. And at that point, they're able to tell us a little bit more, whether it was Christmas or whether they're in school or out of school. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you want to share with the community or anybody who's going to be watching this that has to do with prosecuting these types of cases, or you feel like we covered it?
I think we've covered it. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Blair.
Sure.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you again next Tuesday.